Over, over to you, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you, Akanksha, and good evening and welcome to all the dignitaries who are here today with us. And first of all, this is a definitely pleasant evening, which I was waiting for a long time, especially when I heard it's going to be Dr. Lakshmi Kumar today is going to speak. I said, yes, why not? Let me also come in and have a one-on-one, the privilege of talking to her one-on-one, so that is one main reason I thought I'll be here with you today. So with this, I can see almost around half a century of people are there already into the, meeting. So with that, let's just get into, I'll just give a small introduction about today's speaker. I don't have to give her a big introduction because most of us know about her and what work she's already been doing, but it's my responsibility to do it today. So Dr. Lakshmi Kumar is the founder director of the Orchid's School, Pune, and she's been not only a person who's creating impact in the leadership only in academics, she's put her foot into administration, HR, and many other areas which is connected to school. And she's ensured that there is good flourishing colors happening in wherever she is stepping into. I also see that she is a trainer who's doing a cross-cultural training. She's a consultant in it, and she's been responsible in training people across the globe, from the Europe to America, Australia, Japan, and many more countries. And she has a master's with social work from the Tata Institute of Social Science, Mumbai, and she also has a diploma in teacher training with the Cambridge International Education. She's also done her postgraduate diploma in human resources management. I think this is a wonderful combination of subjects to handle people, first of all, because what I see is, in our age, like Dr. Lakshmi and myself, in our days, most of our parents were insisting us to take up only with science. And I'm surprised if she's gone into social science and HR and cultural development. It is wonderful to know that, and I can see that she's holding multiple responsibilities in different, and she's a member of different committees, to name a few. She's a board member of the Society for Intercultural Education and Research, Indian chapter, and executive committee member for a youth organization center for youth development and activity. She is also a member of education committee by the Martha chapter of commerce, industries and agriculture, and many more to go. So I think, if we start reading, it will take another 5 more minutes. We'll stop it here. I don't want to embarrass you all so much. I know that it's a little awkward for us to listen to people talk about us. So the stage is yours, ma'am. Please go ahead. And we are all waiting to listen to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chitrakala. I think, these brief bios are the most embarrassing and awkward thing to start with, because and especially in front of such a highly educated, august audience. And, when I look at Trilok sir, and I'm like, oh my God, please don't read all those, information. And the other is that, I keep saying this, the pandemic has kind of played level playing on all of us, that despite all our long years of experience, I think it has kind of equalized, and we are all in year 2 of running schools in pandemic time. So in that sense, I think it's our collective wisdom that we will be using to really, navigate our future. So first of all, the disclaimer is that, I'm not saying something that's really going to be extraordinarily new. We have had 4 sessions so far, and I've been hearing all the leaders, and I resonate with almost all of that. And so in one sense, it's about, reinforcement of some of those priorities, or probably slightly adding to the fund of priorities that we had already gathered, and that we all are complementing and supplementing that long list. So let me just, I put a very, very brief presentation, and it's mainly, just to make this text more visible. Uh, Not necessarily any profound, aha knowledge or something. So let me just take you through how I have looked at, setting the top priorities. Uh, the first thing I feel, there are three things that we as leaders have to contextualize is when to open and what to prioritize and how to open. The reason why I have put this is that there is, fortunately or unfortunately, no one universal date that we all can agree upon when to open. Just the last week, if you look at it, Mumbai, our Maharashtra chief minister had given a consent to reopen schools, and Mumbai opened, and then within a couple of days, the Pune guardian minister decided that Pune schools are not opening. So I think very, very important is the local, the geographical context is something that we need to figure out. That is also part of setting the priority, is when to open, and there is no thing like a COVID-free situation, but the numbers, what they call the red zones and different colors that they give for the number of COVID detected cases or the severity of it. And also, if there is a huge climatic impact, along with COVID, if you remember that we have had severe rains that closed schools in Delhi and floods in another part, and now there is extreme cold winds that are sweeping through north. So I think we need to have this as an open, very localized decision of when to open. And what to prioritize also has its cultural context. And it is not just in terms of, learning curve in terms of what to prioritize. I think it also has a very, very crucial effect of, the economic context in which the school operates. And that can decide to some extent what to prioritize. And also the community of learners where they come from, and that if they have had access to or not having an access to digital learning, and or if they have been nearly hijacked in terms of their travel and migration, and that they have had no schooling for the last year or two. So those are some very crucial indicators that you need to keep in mind in terms of what to prioritize. So again, we cannot have this one prescribed list and say, do this. So that's a second cultural, social, political, economic context. And the third one is how to open. There again is about not necessarily about opening the door like cutting the ribbon, but in terms of the processes and policies. And remember that schools are a part of a larger ecosystem of the national, the local, the state mandates, and the Shikshan Mandal, Zilla Parishad, or the local educational ministerial mandates, and SOPs could have a common thread, but at the same time there could be some very, very specific localized SOPs. So let's just look at all these three very important, I would call it like a prelude to leaders asking questions. I just thought, March 2019 is almost like our learning, our life got disrupted in almost in an entirety. And if you look at the school learning, the school curve is almost like March is such an intense month for all the schools in terms of, apart from the board exams and assessments and catching up on completing what you call the learning goals, also taking stock of and planning for the next academic year, admissions, and we just suddenly stopped. So I wanted to kind of highlight the lingering effects of unfinished learning. I wanted to pull out three strands. Is that the assessment is that K-12 students on an average have 5 or more months behind maths and 4 months behind reading by the end of the school year. This is no way a universal picture. Again, as I said, everything has to be contextual, and that if it's a school in a rural or a tribal community, or in a school in the urban area, that is really for a public school system, for economically backward, the months are even more. Or within the privileged or the high budget schools too, if you have children who are coming from the economically backward communities where the access to digital devices itself has been a challenge, it could be more. But I'm just giving some kind of rough picture. And the important thing is also that, our continuum of children entering the kindergarten to children exiting at grade 12. So when you look at the last 2 years, children who have been in grade 10 or children who have been in grade 9, 10, and 11 and 12 have really have huge, issues of entering adulthood. When I say adulthood, I mean also higher education. And again, I'm looking at the pan-India scenario of children dropping out and getting into labor force, or children completing grade 12 and getting into higher education, or children completing grade 12 while also doing the competitive examinations for a highly professional courses. So I think to take some kind of a cognizance of the fact that this generation's opportunities have got restricted. And the third pointer that we need to understand is also that the ripple effect of this missed opportunities or disrupted or unfinished learning may have a problem with them finding a fulfilling job, because the skill sets have been compromised, the knowledge assessments have been highly diluted. There is a kind of, we all know that the scores don't really reflect the competencies of our children, our students, and that really we don't have any point of reference to understand a student capability. So this is going to be a newer challenge for students who are going to enter the job market. So I thought, this whole picture is an important, taking stock of. Another context that is the data that really talks about is that 42% of children between 6 to 13 have not used any type of remote learning. So we are talking about a big chunk of children for last 2 years haven't had any learning curve, and we are not talking about the others whose learning has got disrupted. And also UNICEF is highlighting that even if there are devices available, it has been underutilized, and that children's access is often limited. And for this, we don't have to really imagine far beyond the mountain kind of scenario. In our own vicinities, I have seen our driver's child having the same mobile, and when the driver gets a call, the learning is disrupted. Or that a lot of those tech solutions are not easily accessible in a very, very, very basic mobile gadget. So we're talking about an extraordinary inequity in terms of access to education, because the education has been so restricted to, and the via media has been digital. And I thought we need to just give this a cursory glance before I put the next 10 priorities. The reason why I want to put this is that, we have been told that hybrid learning is the way forward. We cannot anymore do away with ed technology. And for all you know, year 22-23 is going to be open shut academic year. And that, we probably will have to push a lot of things in terms of the digital learning. And even after we reopen the schools, we cannot force vaccination, we cannot force schooling, because parents will always have to give a consent, which means that you have a vast majority of parents, for fear of infection, or maybe other harbored fears of convenience, or because of habit formation, I'm not judging the reasons, will still choose learn or work from home model, which means that that box that we really hated when we were running school is going to be a crucial catalyst for learning. So I thought, let's just understand the complexity of the diverse digital divide that we have in India, that that there is, first of all, an issue of access to technology and connectivity. Well, even we have, all of us who've learned to live our life around internet, have very interrupted internet, and it's not that all of us have invested in high speed internet at home. The second one, very important digital divide, that comes because of the linguistic and cultural digital divide, or that digital resources that can actually, is not always in the localized language. So you have parents who probably are still very digitally not what you call literate, that they can help children or guide students. And I can almost hear us say that, but children are very good and adept with uh, technology, and they are digital natives. But this is again a very overstated statement. Remember that our children are tech savvy, but they are not digitally very literate, and you can see that if you were to look at the way they would upload an answer sheet, or they have to submit an online assignment, or simply their keyboarding skills are not evolved. They're still, touching this. And digital natives do not necessarily love all the learning that comes through digital medium. They love all the entertainment and infotainment and the gamification, but not necessarily content that's delivered through the digital medium. And of course, we need to understand the gender divide in the digital access. And why am I sharing all this? Also, there is something that we need to do groundwork for year 3, is to have some kind of important data on our students and their digital access, what kind of gadgets, what kind of internet speed, what kind of things that they can access, and do they have something on their own, and does it have any kind of monitoring? This data is very, very crucial for us in terms of our planning. Okay. So this is another one I thought an important data to look at, that look at the kind of, potentially reached and cannot be reached. And, as pre-primary and primary, the numbers are very, very large. And it's also partly because they are dependent on the adults or their parents to kind of facilitate the digital access. And that oftentimes they may not have an exclusive device or a gadget, and that they may not have the freer choices that the secondary and the upper secondary students. So this is something that we need to also keep in mind whenever we are reopening school. So I've kind of divided that as a 3-phase, and it is cyclic. So there's something called prior to reopening, because remember, still there are lots of states that have closed the schools and haven't allowed us to reopen. And that last month we reopened in November and we are closed. So that's why I thought we must remember this, reopen, do something and close or reopen. So this is 3 phases, and it's cyclic. And I thought, before reopening, while we are still in this, fairly experienced mode of online, offline, open, shut, I've given 3 important priorities that is kind of the blend between the academic and the administrative, this, because a lot of time when we talk about school reopening, our major focus seems to be also on catching up with the learning, but we remember that the machinery is as important to catch up with and prepare as the the learning process itself. So I think, we all have. I'm not saying that it's something new, but I thought in addition to kind of defining the critical policies, let's also build a data on high risk amongst, staff, teachers, and students in order to protect them. And if there is any age or underlying medical conditions, if we have children with anyone with tactile issues, sensorial issues, or children with, upper respiratory issues, children with allergies, asthmas, and also teachers who may have a comorbidity, or teachers who may have vulnerability, because remember, when we open, we don't have really time for figuring out. And I think this is an important data for us as one of the planning step. The second one is to have plan A, B, C, and D, and we are very good with it. I know as educators in the last two. But this whole, we have been given opportunity to look at running schools and the academic cycle in a different way. So I think if this is an opportunity we can grab and look at academic alternate calendars. And this is not only because of pandemic. Remember that from no exam, now we are ending up with 2 exams. Every exam takes away 1 month of learning nearly. And this means that especially for a board exam, you really lose an entire month of December and probably February to March. So we are talking about a calendar of learning of probably 7-8 months for board exam students. And then, we have a tendency to replicate everything that happens in the board exam to the previous level and the previous level. So I think, when we were discussing it with my team, and I wondered that, when we reopen school, actually, when will we have our sports days? If December is going to be, especially for the seniors, if December is going to be all about the term 1 exam, and children, kind of close their mind for any kind of add-on learning just before the exam. And so there are going to be a lot of disruptions and interruptions in the academic calendar. So we probably will have to have alternate academic calendars for different age group of learners. The third one, why I thought it's a critical policy decision, is that before we reopen, we need to take stock of the situation with our teachers, and whether we are able to pay the timely salaries, whether we still have their trust and their backup with us, because they are the crucial pillars for us. And and we know that we have, all schools have some precarious contracts, or sometimes teachers are hired in a very haphazard manner. And if we have an opportunity to iron out and bring in more professional hiring and retention, and also rewarding their professionalism, I think we need to look at our financial situations. And I'm talking about schools across the spectrum of financial profiling of the school. And let's not pretend that we have heard of stories of teacher exploitation, teacher attrition. Teachers have been, not paid well, or they've been paid 50%, but there is a huge silence on whether they will be paid the late balance, or teachers are paid contingent to the fee collection. So we have all this. And when you have this kind of a very, very, very precarious relationship with the teachers, and that we are expecting them to actually be the stakeholders in reopening the school and running it amidst this calamities and amidst this ambiguity, I think this is an important priority. The fourth one is to look at, promoting hygiene practice. This looks like a very ordinary, we know it all kind of a statement. But I think when we walk around on streets, we go to the shops, we go to the malls, you go to the airport, you wonder what is happening to those reminders, just the way we wear the mask to just the way that we, keep our social distance or we don't keep our social distance. So I think there has to be some kind of nearly a daily briefing on the hygiene practices, because this will what will ensure that we don't go back to another shutdown. And the shutdown could be just that specific to the school or that class, that one child gets it, and then you're closed for 1 week, 10 days, because we are talking about tracing contact and isolation for minimum 7 days. So remember, it's in our own welfare that we kind of hammer on this, almost as an everyday reality. The next one I would recommend is, and you will notice that I'm not jumping straight into the learning. I feel that we need to scaffold the system and we need to prepare the system so that the core activity of learning is uninterrupted. Many times we straight away would go to the focus of that, and then our the support systems can be so tender and so structured that it can fall apart. So I'm looking at a large scale remedial programs to mitigate learning loss and preventing the exacerbation of learning inequity. And this is something that we need to push for. And while this is happening, the open shut, I think the self-directed learning is something that we need to push for, especially for the older children, because that's going to be a future skill. That online courses are a reality, and one of the future workforce skill is about taking your own accountability. I believe that the companies are not going to always invest in you to upskill you. Company will say that for the next job of yours, next assignment of yours, you will need to learn this, and go do it yourself, which means that self-directed learning is something that we need to drive. And we have great opportunity right now in the form of a flip, in the form of, giving the content and then mainly driving them towards critical thinking conversations. So I think the implementation has two crucial parts, is to look at the large scale remedial programs and to look at how we can motivate our students for self-directed learning or student agency. The sixth one, which is very, very important for us, and we have struggled with this, and remember, the economic impact of the pandemic is going to be there for the next decade, if not more. So we need to address the school fees in terms of, perhaps to look at the peripherals wherever possible, if we can eliminate other barriers to entry, because we have I'm sure all of you have experienced, there are parents who genuinely can't pay because they have either lost their job or they have had big setback and financial crisis at home. And then you have parents that who kind of feel that well, nobody is paying or not many people are paying, and there is no consequences that we really can directly enforce on the students, thanks to all the High Court directions, though thankfully High Court has said that the schools have the right to collect fees. But this is something that as school leaders must own, that without a financial health, all our dreams and all our continuity can have a disruption. Hence, I think we need to address this financial health of the school by looking at where can we really address the school fees, where if there is any kind of sponsorship, if there are any other kind of cost reductions, or whether we can really look at some of that. This is very, very important priority for us. And the seventh priority I have put forward is we need to look at a kind of create a model of open shut. This sounds ridiculous as it feels, but this is going to be a reality for 22-23, is that anytime community transmission number goes up and we are immediately ordered to close. Or anytime your school, my school have suddenly large number of cases, we have heard it, Bangalore 35, some school 400, all the numbers, and you suddenly become the national news. But I think it's very, very important to look at whether you are, if you have to close a classroom or a domain or a floor or your school, or let's say the entire, community, municipality that gets an order, I think how, in the decision-making model of closure and openness, in terms of quick communications, what kind of circulars, any templates that you need to keep, and, whether you want to, consider the old consent or every time you have to get the new consent, and if there is any new mandates from WHO and the local community. So you kind of create a framework or a model for open shut. I think this is something that, because next time you close and open, you want to open, you may not have all the team members immediately accessible to you. You might have someone down with COVID, someone's family down with COVID. So I think it's important that this is also a way of, operating on a wonderful delegated model of distributive leadership. The eighth one, I think, is, remember, I spoke about the data on remote, the digital access for your students, but also to evaluate your own investments in the remote learning, because there are two things that are really emerging, which is very, very important for us to understand. This hybrid model is, everybody is using this, everybody is saying that's the way forward. But hybrid model is also essentially about, you have few days in school and few days at home, meaning all of the students in school, all of the students at home. But we are going to be having in the next few months or maybe a whole year, some students in school, some students at home. I don't know if this is called really a hybrid model. And if it's the age of the learner is higher, like senior students, you can have a bunch of students sitting in front of you and you deliver your, learning, your lessons, while others can sit at home and you can have a live streaming. But think about a kindergartner or a grade 1 or 2 bunch of students sitting in front of you, and you probably are so focused on also making it available to the students who are at home, whereas the young bunch of students want to be interactive, move, shift and change. So we need to look at a new way of running schools depending on the age of the students. So that's why I feel that instructional hours with blended models where schools may be operating on partial or otherwise adapted schedule. Imagine a grade 1, you might have to teach the children who are in school separately and go online to teach separately. You cannot have them happening parallelly. So this means also the teachers have to be, your staffing and allocation is another very, very important priority. And hence my 8th point is increased funding for teacher capacity building. It's also about helping them visualize this, helping them enroll in this idea of why some age group can't be just blended in one classroom and what needs to be done when they are in school. Recently, I remember when I was addressing the PTA, some of the parents said, but we must finish all the syllabus when they are in school. And for whoever is coming to school, because 100% children are not coming to school. And my response is that children are not willing to come to school after 2 years to be really locked up in 4 walls of classroom. So I think we need to look at the capacity building, not necessarily only in terms of the deliveries and the methodologies and the technology abilities and appropriate tools, but also the why and how of we need to prioritize what will happen in school. That children probably need to be given a higher focus on social learning or social aspect of learning, mental health, and a whole lot of priority setting when the children are in school. And for that, we need to build the teacher's capacity in terms of the mindset and thinking, not just in terms of the deliveries. Last and not the least is that let's look at the assessment. We know that till grade 8, RTE says no one can be failed. So this whole ritual of running this annual exam where our children do not have the, probably the wherewithal to answer without losing, without using any unfair practice, or, having this exam as more like a tickable agenda on, but, none of the scores have any kind of validity, reliability, or reflection of the student competence. Let's revisit those critically, whether they are really critically important, or whether we should revisit, criteria for decisions on promoting. And of course, right now, less said the better about the board exams, because they are still figuring out, they are kind of operating from moment to moment, day to day, night to night. So we are, constantly in the state of flux and figuring out, a lot of our energies go in that. But let's look at the assessment in a way that is more meaningful, that probably can, really stand out for some skill sets, some kind of competency based assessments, and really not about, just giving an opportunity for students to score high by hook or crook. And I want to leave you with this slide. Many of you may have read about or heard about Peter Diamandis, and the book that he has written, The Future is Faster Than You Think, and I think the pandemic has given us a huge pause to look at how education as a field, as an industry, it's interesting that he spoke about this, I think 5 years ago, 6 years ago. And he says that we are going to see roughly 100 years of technological changes in the next 10 years. Imagine what it was in 1920 and what happened from 1919 to 1922. So I think that one of the topmost priority for us is that change management, or embracing the change, or actively looking at change. And, I'm just picking up one strand from his 20 meta trends for the roaring 20s. He speaks about is that motivation for self-learning rather than expensive universities degrees that may not be useful for future jobs. That's going to be the way forward. So I think we need to have some kind of appropriate, kind of embedded in our learning, where we actually promote self-learning. We actually push our students for learning responsibility, learning ownership. As I said, eventually the future employers are not going to wait for and prepare you for the accountability. They would want you to take, or the learners to take, the employees to take the accountability. If we can bring that ethos and the spirit in our education, I think we would have used the pandemic as an opportunity, apart from viewing that as a challenge. So I stop here.
So thank you so much, ma'am. It was wonderful listening to you. And I would say that I have got almost takeaways from every slide of yours. It was really important. Like, we leaders think what is really important for us to plan, because the planning that we do will definitely impact the whole society as a school, right? The first question, what you asked, what you put for all of us is when to open, which is $1 million question. I think none of us can get an answer to that. Anybody who's here, or any leader across the country or across the globe. As you said, in pockets, things are happening. In pockets, closures are happening and opening is happening. So based on the situation, like, we have to act. That is the first thing that all of us should know. Second important point, what I take from your speech is the equity that you're talking about, which NEP is really emphasizing on, telling equality and equity is important. But are we able to actually achieve it? That's a big question, because the digital divide that is there, which is not allowing us to attain what is important. Secondly, the numbers that you have given, 463 million have been cut off from learning. It's really alarming. And as leaders, we have to touch ourselves and think, are we really doing the right thing? Have we catered to what we as leaders should do? Isn't it? Because at least we who are in the city are able to get connected with the children. Imagine the leaders struggle who are heading schools in tribal areas, in villages, how much trouble they would have. And I think, if we all get together, probably we can do little changes with that. So this is a very valid point that you brought it in front of all of us. The next is the alternate calendar. What you were speaking, something came into mind is, the alternate academic calendar doesn't have to be only with the what's the so-called syllabus or the things that we have planned. I feel there should be something separately done for the differently abled children or the teachers. The calendar should cater to everybody. As you said, no, there's a big drift in education. To pull them all up, we need something planned, like plan A, plan B in the calendars as well. That will help us to perform better rather than just sticking to one calendar for everybody. That's my opinion. I feel when you were talking, this just came into my mind. The next is what I felt is very important is the financial health of the institution. Here, it is a collective thing that I feel has to be done, especially the parents who are able to do should connect with the schools, and they have to come forward thinking it's my responsibility as well. Only if such kind of a feel comes out, probably the whole country will be benefited, because we have to look at, every school has students who are able to pay, who are unable to pay. But teachers who are coming out of the houses, they come not only to do a service. Today, even all of us, we are doing a work for the sake of some kind of thing. We have come out.
Let's face it, it's a livelihood.
Absolutely. We have to agree that
we have bills to pay.
Yes. So it makes a difference if the parents come forward and accept their responsibility. And the very, very important point, what you said about assessment, assessment should be a little more flexible and versatile. So it caters to every learning community and everybody is being taken care of. But the biggest question that which works in my mind all the time is, madam, regarding the digital reach for everybody in the country. We say that we are digitally sound today, but when this number 463 million is there, have we reached there? I feel it's a big question mark, madam. This is really a big pity that I feel all of us have to face. So these are the things that I'm taking from your this session. Yes, you said it is something what other people have already spoken about. We are hearing it, but every time you hear, you feel the intensity of the problem in you, right? So that's what we all have to work on. So I feel, ma'am, thank you, ma'am. Kudos to you. Wonderfully placed and wonderfully put, and you have actually triggered the alarm in all of us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Recently we took a survey. I run a school which has 25% from the RTE, and that others are from privileged background. And trust me that we still have children who are working from one mobile that the family is sharing.
Yes.
This is Pune city.
Oh, wow.
And there are children who have, there are families where there are two children, so they don't have two laptops because father and mother are working from home, they need the laptop. So if we are talking about another year and more and forever on, digital learning as a, reality, I think we need to address this. Otherwise, we would be just running as we have done it before. I have completed my syllabus. I have finished my teaching. Whether children have learned or not, whether children are there or not, it will be like, business as usual.
Yes. Ma'am,
I can see Trilok sir is smiling, right?
Absolutely. See, if even one child is unable to reach that learning, madam, I feel it's a failure, ma'am. Because every child deserves that learning. When that is not being given, it's a pity for us.
I just feel sometimes a classroom drama of I completed the syllabus, but children haven't learned, is just gone digital. That's all.
Yes, yes. So anybody
Yes.
has any questions, you can just raise your hands. We can just
Yes,
unmute
please.
you.
Let's see what Trilok sir have. I like Trilok sir have been keep
A
unmuting.
virtual raise of hand. He's
yes,
a physical
yes.
raise of hand. Go ahead,
Yes,
sir.
Trilok
So
sir.
Trilok sir, first you.
I'm raising my physical hand because I believe there's no teacher can never replace the anything in this world. So
Yes.
all these problems in the last 2 years what we have faced, I think first of all I must compliment Lakshmi ma'am. You are superbly meticulous with whatever you have talked to us, and the way it was synthesized by Chandrakala ma'am, that was even enlightening for us.
Thank
Both
you,
of
sir.
you made a
Thank
wonderful
you,
day
sir.
for all of us.
Thank you.
This
Thank
session
you,
was
sir.
highly, it was, for the last 3-4 sessions, we were talking about the 10 priorities. Every time the people come, they come with this, with a different kind of a problem and the same problem. Like when we started, we said how to start, when to start, and what to prioritize. This was such a common question everywhere, but everywhere we find a different solution coming up. And today's session was so beautifully taken up by her. All the slides were so good. I've taken a
Yes.
screenshot of all the slides, Lakshmi ma'am.
I
because
will
I'm
share
going
it,
to-
sir. I'll put it in the IPN group.
I'm going to
I
share it
think
with
the
my
more we
friends.
share our insights and our experiences, we will be collectively stronger in our ways of dealing
No,
with the situation.
that is the purpose of IPN. IPN is connecting all of us to share the ideas, learn from each other.
Yes.
And when there's a learning is happening, like I felt there was a lot of learning for me. I kept on taking the screenshots because, when you have the urge to learn, you always find the ways to learn. So this is the best portal, this IPN, where we have been discussing different ideas. But there was one solution to what problem you're talking about, like a digital divide. Digital divide is a big issue during this. What happened was the people who are not, there were some haves, there were some have-nots. So in our school, what did we do was we had a community connect program where our children and the parents donated the old used mobiles. Because
Wow.
we, with a God's grace, we are
Yeah,
from a
many
school
schools have
where the
done that
clientele is
also.
very good.
Mhm.
Our parents, are very well off. They have, they keep discarding old mobiles and keep purchasing iPhone 10, 12, 13. So old mobiles were lying with everyone. We collected a pool of mobiles. We adopted one orphanage and one NGO
Gave
school
it to
called
them.
Janak Pathshala.
Mhm.
We distributed these mobiles there. It is, if each one helps one, if that happens, instead of waiting for the government to do something,
Yes.
instead of, helping everyone, I cannot help anyone and everyone. But if I can think of each one helps one, I think we are more than 140 crore people, out of which maybe only 38, 40 crore people are below the poverty line. Most of the people are well off. If you see, more than 60% of the people are well off. If 60% people, each one, no problems as such, resources will be in abundance. But if we have that intent to help, but that
Absolutely.
is what we have to develop in the children. I was just thinking that the children must be taught the values more than the curriculum and the tests we have been teaching them. I think today's session has really brought one thing in for that we have to think of narrowing down this digital divide. And for that, each leader who is here, each teacher who is here can think of helping one person at least. If each one helps one, I think we will be in a win-win situation altogether.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much.
much.
This is what I wanted to share.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much,
Wonderful,
Trilok
sir.
sir. Lakshmi ma'am, now we will move towards the Q&A, our Q&A session. And first question we have from Deepika ma'am. Over to you, ma'am. And then next to Indu ma'am. Deepika ma'am, over to you.
Hello, everyone. So thank you, ma'am, for an eye-opening session. We all are sailing at the same boat, open, shut, open, shut. We don't know how it will move on further. The biggest problem I feel, what we were discussing now about the learning gap we are observing in individual classrooms. So
Just give me a moment, ma'am. I'll what I I'll mute everyone and then I'll give the permission so that everyone can unmute themselves. So just
Thank
give me
you.
just give me 30 seconds. Yeah. Yes, Deepika ma'am.
So my question is, like, students, those who are coming digitally online, I personally see in my school that around 10% of students work with open cameras. And we all know that what is going behind the closed camera. So how will we make sure that the learning a teacher is doing is actually going there? So my entire last 1 year has been gone inside classes telling everybody to open their cameras. Like if you see here also right now, when we are sitting and talking, when we are open camera, we know that yeah, somebody's sitting there and listening to me. But when we expect the same thing from a child who is, let's say, in class fifth or maybe 10th, my two kids are also in my own school and they are also mostly camera off. So this is a one big problem which I feel. So I mean, anything you have to tell us that how can we ask our students to actually take it up online class and be there with open cameras? I think Sam Dam Dandavit Savad Ma chuke hai, but it's still cameras are not open. Very inside.
Hmm. Am I audible?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Well, I don't have an answer
I would
because
like to
we
just
have.
add something
Yeah,
there,
can I just
if you allow
complete? Can
me.
I? Yeah,
Yes,
can I
yes.
just complete? But I have some uh, insights. So I think choose your battle, because second year, if they have not opened the camera, third year they're not going to. And the one of the things that I have felt, including myself, sometimes my hair is not okay. Sometimes I don't have a good apartment or a private space for myself, that I feel very vulnerable to be exposed to my classmates. And this came up to light when recently my school, one of the classes were having what you call the chefs at work cooking day. And obviously all our kitchens don't look like Deepika Padukone's kitchen, and that children do feel socially very, very revealed and very vulnerable. And let's be very honest, children do bully each other later about iska ghar dekha kya, uska kaisa tha, kaise baithe the. So you have one small community of genuinely feeling awkward and vulnerable, so we need to be sensitive. The other one is also about how I look, on screen, because there are children who are taking a screenshot and there's a lot of social media bullying that's happening. So I'm just thinking that, for whatever reason, right or wrong, we are not here to judge. Eventually, children unfortunately have that remote of switching on or switching off. So if at all pandemic has taught me anything, is I need to choose my battle. And I'm also looking at me as an adult. Okay, while I'm here, I do like this. I'm holding my camera and I am completely attentive to you. So I think a lot of multi-gadget browsing has become a reality, or that there is a sibling who is getting fed, or the rooms are not made up, or because they probably are very worried about how they look online, because especially when you're talking about certain age group, that idea of body image is so important. So whatever is the legit or not so legit reason, I think we need to move on and not insist on them putting on the camera. This is just my very, very personal take. And like I said, I haven't run school in the pandemic time before. So this is a sensing I feel. And this is the adult world is also doing. How many of us, our teachers, are actually putting on the video and answering? I mean, every time we have done training or you have done a planning discussion and asked for a question, there is a dead stone silence.
True.
So I think there is something about this hesitancy that we are not able to comprehend. And that's probably, it's almost like saying, keep quiet in the classroom, switch on the camera. This is another very ineffective instruction. Yeah, Chandrakala.
So,
Sorry, Chitrakala,
ma'am, I'm
sorry.
Chitrakala.
Yeah,
So,
sorry.
no, the thing, what I wanted to tell is just before we started the meeting, when I was discussing with Akanksha, the first question I asked is, am I presentable? Is it okay for you? The screen looks good or not? When we at this age are so, sensitive about this matter, I was actually thinking, what Madam Lakshmi was telling, the same thing was running in my head. Those children of that age, probably they'll have that more with them, right? So, and as she said, the situation at home, the surroundings, what is going to be visible, all of that will be mattering. Yes, madam, what you said is really right. I just wanted to quote what I did just before the thing was starting.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
I think ma'am's screen is frozen. Yeah. Indu ma'am, your question, please. Yeah, ma'am is back.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, Lakshmi ma'am. I could join at 5:45 because I could get to see my brother after 2 years. And your session I was looking forward because whenever you contribute, not as a panelist, but whatever time you have contributed, there's so much value in it. And just now what you spoke about children, how they think, about the family, about, their parents and the parents of the house, that speaks volumes of what kind of human being you are. That's how, if every educator thinks that the reasons behind their hiding themselves, I think we'll make the children's life easy. I would request IPN team to upload your session on YouTube because it's a big loss to me. I love being here, and people like you ignite everybody's mind and reinforce how we think and we feel we are on the right track. So I would request you, though you said you'll be sharing slides in IPN group, I would request Akanksha, it should go on your YouTube platform as well. I don't have a question. Would love to hear more from you.
Don't
That's
worry,
the
ma'am.
request.
Don't worry, ma'am. We will
And
be
more
uploading
often,
it.
Lakshmi ma'am, more often, because it's
Thank
not
you.
some ordinary, this thing. Same with Mrs. Chandrakala. So looking forward to more from you people. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Indu ma'am. We'll be uploading the videos, we are waiting for this series to end. This series have 5 sessions. So once this series is done, we will upload it on our YouTube channel.
Why don't you upload side by side, right? Why after
the thing
5?
is, ma'am, audience.
I think they're kind of, cumulatively looking at what is the common 10 all of us have spoken about, probably. Yeah.
Soon it will end in the.
I thought we can absorb it well when we seeing one at a time. Anyways, I mean, you would know the reasons better.
Yeah. Thank you, ma'am. And Lakshmi ma'am, we have another question from Monica Gupta, ma'am. Monica ma'am, over to you.
Good evening, leaders. Good evening, Ms. Lakshmi. This is Monica Gupta here, and I hope you remember we met
yes,
the IPN dialogue.
Pune. Yes.
Pune dialogue. And I have no question, Ms. Lakshmi, but I want to tell everybody that I have been listening to Lakshmi Madam for quite some time, and especially in the Pune dialogue. And genuinely speaking, I attended this and I made it possible because I knew Lakshmi Madam would be there. Other than all the different things that she has spoken about, the thing which I admire the most in you, Miss Lakshmi, is your quality to respect each and every individual's choices and options. When I listened to you during the Pune IPN dialogue, at that time also, somebody raised a question about why we are giving so much of importance to children who are speaking about their mental illness, whether the mental illness is there within them or we are just simply exaggerating them. And I must tell each and every one of you what Miss Lakshmi said at that time, and which still is inside me and it affected me the most. She said, it is not spoken about does not mean it does not exist in the society. And I have seen people, children, parents, and all the other stakeholders, including the teachers, suffering from mental illness and questions by which they are surrounded with. Also seen a lot of parents struggling to make their choices with, struggling to get more gadgets to the students, managing to balance between the household chores and the school activities, to manage their finances. The important thing with all of us is that we should understand that each and every individual is surrounded by a lot of choices, by a lot of challenges and problems. And like Miss Lakshmi, if we learn to respect each one of them and their choices and not judge them, it is going to make our mission much, much more easier than what we think about. And thank you, Miss Lakshmi, and thank you, Miss
Thank you.
Chandrakala, and Akansha also for such a good moderation. And Miss Lakshmi, and I would I'm looking forward to more of your
We were to meet.
dialogues.
We were to meet.
And I was waiting for the other one, which did not happen.
It will happen,
unfortunately. But yes, I am like in the line where I would be ready to listen to you again and again and yet again. All the more because you are not only telling us about the strategies and methodologies and learning thing, but also you are telling us about individual respect, to respect the individual and not judging them. That's all from my side. Thank you, educators, and I'm very fortunate to have attended this and looking forward to more such conversations. Ms. Akansha, hope so that you will be calling us soon again. And Miss Lakshmi, I'm waiting to come back to Orchids. Let's see when it happens again.
We will wait. Keeping fingers crossed.
Let's keep our fingers crossed. And Akansha, to you.
Thank you, Monica ma'am. And firstly, I should mention that it's Chitrakala Ramachandran, not Chandrakala ma'am, because people are changing her name.
Yes.
And
Sorry,
I think I should type my name in bold letters. My name is Chitrakala Ramachandran.
Actually, just because of your surname, people merge it, like it is.
No, if I tell the purpose of my name, probably people will remember. My father was a painter and he's a national awardee. That's the reason I've got the name Chitrakala. So it's easier for you to remember now. So, well, I don't think there are any more questions here. But still, I just wanted to emphasize on one more point what Madam said, She said, as a school, we have to promote, implement, and address this issue of the COVID details, especially when how we have to promote this on daily basis. Teachers and schools have to bring it to people, because as she said, in public, we still see people unaware of the conditions around, and the reasons for this pandemic to explode so many times is that personal discipline is a bit less. So we as school, we have to promote it on regular basis, and we as leaders and teachers have to implement it regularly and address this matter as a priority. Thank you so much for giving us all of these opportunities to speak, ma'am. Even though we are doing, have we put it in a channelized way? That's what you actually tapped on and made us all understand. Thank you so much.
Ma'am, sorry to excuse you. There is one more question from Shatabdi Public School. I don't know.
I will close it with the story
sure,
all
definitely.
of you. Okay? Yes.
I have unmuted. I don't know from by which name I have to refer you. The name is written Shatabdi Public School. If you can unmute yourself, we'll quickly take up that question and then we will close the session. Okay. I don't know why. Okay, ma'am. So let's just move on to the closing.
It's a bit like our student,
So let's.
This is what we experience every day, right? Sometimes, students are attending, but they're not present.
So thank you so much, Lakshmi ma'am, for your session. It was a wonderful session. And
I think ma'am wanted to tell a story.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
Yes.
looking for that
Yeah.
story.
Yeah, and this story is again known to all of you. You know, the nice thing about talking to educators, we all know, so we can speak the same thing again and again and get new perspectives. The story is called Sleeping Through the Storm. I'm sure all of you have heard about it, but let me just say it. So years ago, a farmer owned a land along the Atlantic sea coast. He constantly advertised for additional hands, just like we do constantly. We need teachers, okay? And most people were reluctant to work on farms along the Atlantic. It's because they were dreading the awful storms that rage across the Atlantic, and it was causing havoc on the buildings and the crops. And the farmer interviewed many applicants for the job. He received a steady stream of refusals because, no, boss, this is not my cup of tea. You know, it's too stormy weather to actually work. And finally, as we always find, finally, this right person, a short, thin man, well past middle age, he approached the farmer and he said, I'm a good hand for you. Really? I mean, looking at him up and down and his stature, he says, well, I can sleep when the wind blows, he answered. And that was a very strange answer for a job description. And although puzzled by this answer, the farmer, desperate for help, hired him because he didn't have anyone else. The little man worked well around the farm, busy from dawn to dusk, and the farmer felt satisfied with the man's work. Then one night, the wind howled loudly in from the offshore. Jumping out of the bed, the farmer grabbed a lantern and rushed next door to the hired hand's sleeping quarters. He shook the little man and yelled, well, get up, the storm is coming. The thing's down before, will blow away. You need to tie it up. The little man rolled over the bed and said, oh, no, I told you I can sleep when the wind blows. What? And he was so enraged by the old man's response, and the farmer was tempted to fire him on the spot. Instead, he thought, let me go and fix all this, and he hurries to prepare the storm. For his amazement, he discovers that all the haystacks had been covered with tarpaulins. The cows were in the barn, the chickens were in the coops, and the door was well barred. The shutters were tightly secured. Everything was tied down. Nothing could blow away. The farmer then understood what his hired hand meant, and he returned to bed to also sleep while the wind blows. My dear friends, for sure the wind will blow. The pandemic is not gone. The political wind will blow. The communal, the social, the emotional, the mental health wind will blow. And that, as I said, the survival of school itself is going to be a question for so many of us. And we don't really require a Bejan Daruwala. Unfortunately, he's no more to tell us that the wind will blow, because we have, pitched our tent on the very, very tumultuous sea coast, so to say. And it is the hardest time for the whole world. So what is that we need to tie up? So please, let's focus on what's in our sphere of control and influence. And let's not pitch our battle on the areas that we cannot have control over. And let's do the best so that we genuinely can, if not sleep, take a cat nap or a power nap when the wind really blows. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Lakshmi ma'am. And I am pleasant to see there are many faces on, like, screens are on now. So I think so a story attracts people. So that's why everyone is on a screen. And I can see Pramod sir also here. Thank you, Pramod sir, for joining in. I don't know whether you were from the beginning.
He's been there. He's been
okay,
there.
great. I
Yes,
couldn't
yes.
okay, my screen would have not seen me.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So there
Thank
are
you,
many-
Pramod sir. Thank you.
Yeah. So Chitrakala ma'am, over to you for the closing remarks, and then we will be closing the session.
Thank you so much, Akanksha, and a wonderful evening, ma'am. You've made the evening really bright and shining, because we are having, I think I have a diary of 2 pages of takeaway for myself. Similarly, would everybody else endorse, I suppose, saying, yes, everybody got it. So definitely it's a challenging time to all of us. What I also take away from your story is being prepared enough will definitely allow us to face any kind of situation. Thank you for the wonderful story again, ma'am. And I'm so happy to meet such elite crowd over here. Thank you so much. I have met Trilok Bisti sir and Dr. Pramod and Bhushan Kumar sir and many more over here. Miss Indu, I think we have interacted once with Miss Indu as well. Hello again. Nice meeting you all again. And thank you so much to IPN and IPN's family. Looking forward to meet again all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much,
you.
everyone. We will be meeting on this coming Monday on 31st with our next speaker on the same topic. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.